Everyone knows how Cinderella's story ends. The glass slipper fits, the prince falls in love, and they live happily ever after. But was it really a happy ending? What if the real story began after the ball, when the palace gates closed, and Cinderella had to face a world far more complicated than she ever imagined? Cinderella thought the hardest part of her life was behind her. She had escaped the cruelty of her stepmother, found true love, and stepped into a world of luxury. But when the palace gates closed behind her, something unexpected happened. What if happily ever after isn't the end? Cinderella soon learned that life after the fairy tale wasn't as simple as she thought. No magic or prince could solve every problem. But in the end, she discovered something far more powerful: the strength to create her own happily ever after. At first, the castle was everything Cinderella had dreamed of. The gowns, the feasts, the gardens, it was like living in a dream. But dreams have a way of fading, and soon she felt the weight of her new life pressing down on her. The palace walls seemed colder with each passing day, and behind the golden smiles of the nobles, she saw judgment. Is she truly fit to be a princess? The whispers were always just loud enough for her to hear. She was the girl from the ashes after all, nothing more than a servant. The ball, the prince, the love, it all began to feel distant as the reality of royal life closed in on her. She had no one to talk to, no one who understood her. Even the prince, as much as he loved her, was always busy with matters of the kingdom. The castle, which had once felt like a symbol of her new life, became a prison. Every glance, every conversation reminded her of her past, making her question whether she truly belonged there. Could she ever escape the girl she used to be? One afternoon, while she walked the palace grounds trying to find peace in the gardens, Cinderella encountered two familiar faces: Anastasia and Drizella. Her stepsisters, who had once mocked her, belittled her, were now standing before her, eyes filled with desperation. They had lost everything. Cast out by society, with no place to call home, they begged for her forgiveness. They pleaded for a second chance. Her heart pounded. Could she forgive them? These were the same women who had laughed as she scrubbed floors, who had taken pleasure in her pain. But now they stood before her, broken. Would it be weakness to forgive them, or strength? As the days went by, Cinderella faced more than just the ghosts of her past. The royal court began questioning her place as their future queen. The nobles, who were once so quick to celebrate her marriage, now whispered in dark corners. They called her naive, unworthy of leading a kingdom. She knows nothing of politics, nothing of ruling, they said. Their words tore at her, making her doubt everything. The villagers adored her, but in the palace, she felt like an outsider, trapped between two worlds. Her charity work with the common folk was seen as a waste of time by the aristocrats, who cared more about power than people. Even the prince, though kind, didn't fully understand her struggles. The breaking point came one night at a royal banquet. She overheard a conversation, nobles mocking her right in front of the prince. Her heart sank as he said nothing, letting their cruel words hang in the air. That night, Cinderella wept alone in her chambers, her dreams of happiness crumbling around her. Had she made a mistake in believing that love and a crown were enough? The next morning, Cinderella did something unexpected. She left the palace without telling anyone, disguised in simple clothes, and returned to the village where she had grown up. As she walked the familiar streets, the weight on her chest began to lift. Here, people knew her not as a princess, but as one of their own. Among the villagers, she found a sense of belonging she had lost in the palace. They welcomed her with open arms, asking nothing in return. It was in the warmth of their smiles and the simplicity of their lives that Cinderella remembered who she really was. She wasn't just the girl from the ashes or the princess in the castle. She was both, and more. Cinderella returned to the palace with a new fire in her heart. She wasn't going to be the princess the nobles expected her to be. She would be the queen her people needed. In the throne room, she confronted the court, her voice steady and strong. She declared that she would not hide her past to fit their mold. Her strength didn't come from her title, it came from everything she had endured. To everyone's surprise, the prince stood beside her. He had seen her pain and realized that she was not just a queen for the palace, but a queen for the people. And as for her stepsisters, Cinderella forgave them. Not because they deserved it, but because she did. She understood now that forgiveness wasn't about forgetting the past. It was about freeing herself from the pain it caused. Her stepsisters had to rebuild their lives, but Cinderella no longer carried the burden of their cruelty. The fairy tale hadn't ended with a glass slipper. It had only just begun. Cinderella didn't live happily ever after because of a prince or a crown. She lived happily ever after because she learned that real power doesn't come from royalty. It comes from knowing who you are, standing tall in the face of doubt, and believing that no matter what others say, you are enough. In the end, Cinderella didn't change to fit the palace. She changed the palace to fit her. And with that, she showed the world that true strength is not in titles or riches, but in the heart that refuses to give up. Sometimes, the greatest victory isn't in winning the crown, it's in knowing you never needed it to be powerful. You don't need to wait for a prince to change your life. You hold the power to become the queen of your own story. Embrace your strength, follow your dreams, and remember that true happiness comes from within. Your journey is just beginning, and you have everything it takes to create your own happily ever after. If you believe in the power of stories to change lives, join us on this journey by subscribing to Inspire Cloud. Let's spread positivity together. Hit that like button, subscribe, and share your thoughts in the comments below. And tell us, what's your favorite fairy tale?